Being a single mom and doing it all by yourself is brutal. Learn the brain and energy tools to get back to your center and overcome your challenges. Welcome to Single Moms Doing It All. This is your host, Muriel Felous. And today I want to welcome you into a topic that is particularly painful for us single moms. And it is when our teen decides that he or she wants to go live with the other parent. It can be a very painful experience. So that's what we're going to talk about. Before we do that, I would like to invite you to take some time to relax because life is particularly stressful for the past few months with the COVID pandemic. And a lot of us are stressed without even realizing. I have a lot of clients coming to me for tapping sessions, for emotional freedom technique sessions, regarding anxiety about our situation. So, as you know, breathing is always very calming for the nervous system, especially when you breathe from your stomach, like really opening and engaging your sternum, and from your nose. That sends a direct message to your nervous system to calm down, because when you are under stress, you don't breathe from your nose. If you are running because something is running after you, which is where our reaction comes from very olden times when we were threatened by predators and such. It's imprinted in our reptilian brain for survival. We run and we breathe from the mouth. So when you start taking your time and breathe from your nose, really breathing from your stomach, it sends a message to the body that all is well. You can calm down, you're safe. So let's do 2 or 3 breaths like that. And as you do so, really visualize the air coming into your nostrils being a calming, fresh, soothing energy. So let's go. Inhale. Hold it. And let go. And maybe imagine that you let go of heat, of inflammation, of anything that is not good for you physically and mentally. Another one. Inhale with really blowing up your stomach with air. Hold. And let go. And when you exhale, you can exhale from your mouth. And last one. And with this last one, we're going to make a sound, a soothing sound when we exhale. Inhale, inviting coolness and calmness. Hold. And let go with a sound. So I hope that now you feel more relaxed. If you feel that you need a few more, just pause this episode and do a few more. I know it did the trick for me, but the truth is I was already relaxing before I started recording. So, our topic today. When our teen decides to go live with the other parent. Of course, there are several possible scenarios. And I'm not talking about the scenario when they want to go there because the other parent is not really parenting and they have no rules, no limits. They can do whatever they want, which is the dream of every teenager. And I must admit that it even goes on in my house that they're dreaming about no rules. I had a quite heated discussion with my son this morning because his sleep hours are not as I would like them to be. And when he doesn't sleep regularly and early enough and sleep too late into the day, and he's tired because he falls asleep with noise, he is moody. He's more moody than usual. And of course, it's much harder to communicate because he gets mad. So they dream, I know mine does, of being able to live without me telling him to eat, to sleep, to when he needs to come home, stuff like that. But that's just a dream. Because as a parent, I provide a structure, and although they have their own wisdom and they know most of the time what's good for them, sometimes they need a little bit of help and push to get back into the highest good routine, what's better for them. So they dream about not having rules. And if that's the reason that they want to go live with the other parent, that's not really what I'm talking about today. Although I had clients, and one in particular that I think of, where it was the case. And her son went to live with the father because he could do whatever he wanted. He could smoke weed because the father was smoking weed. And okay, he enjoyed that freedom. He was about 17. He enjoyed the freedom for a while, for a little bit. I think it lasted a month or two, maybe 3. And then he realized that what happens with living with a parent who's not really a parent, who's not really talented at keeping you safe, at taking care of you, at frankly seeing you fully and thinking about you before they think about what is easier for them to do, which is saying yes to everything. That's the easier way, but that's not the best way all the time. So most of the time, that's why they do it. They are incapable of enduring tension, and they're uncomfortable with confrontations, which sometimes are necessary. So after a while, he realized that he wasn't fully seen. And that's not how he put it in his mind, but that's my explanation of it. And that he wasn't really taken care of. And it made him feel unsafe. He didn't feel as safe as when he was living with his mom. So even in an extreme case like that, and it's not always the result, but it may happen, that even if they go because they're going to be able to do whatever they want, sometimes at the end, they learn the lesson they were supposed to learn. Because we're all here to learn, to grow, to change, to become bigger in our wisdom and our zone of comfort, etc., etc. I can explain that. We'll cover that in another episode about the zone of comfort, because I love talking about that. So even if that's not the case, even if that can have a positive result, that's not what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about a scenario where your teen wants to go live with the other parent because they have their own reasons. And sometimes they just want to know the other parent, because when they're mostly with one, we don't know what's going on in their head, and they feel the need to connect with the other parent. And that's not always a negative thing. But what I want to bring into your your mind, your awareness, is that teenagers are working on becoming independent from us. If we do our job right, they will be able to form their own identity, which will be independent from us, which will be a healthy one, where there are scenarios when mothers are not capable of, they're too much fusional with their kids. I don't know if that's a word in English. Yeah, I think it is, like in fusion with their kids. And they're incapable to let them build their own identity. So I would also look if that's the case with you, because teenagers show their identity by becoming independent, build their identity by becoming, not show, but build, by becoming independent. And the way you can help them becoming independent, is to treat them appropriately based on where they are, what stage are they in doing that. And also leaving them enough freedom to make their own decisions, because the only way that they're going to develop their making decision skills is by practicing. Like anything else, mastery comes from practice. So you can help them do that by giving them the freedom to go live with the other parent if they want to, and becoming independent from you. As I was saying earlier, I'm going to give you now ways for you to examine what's going on and to derive benefits from you, for you, even though it may seem like a negative situation, it may seem like a challenge. As you know, there are always two sides in one thing, and challenges are here to make us grow, and there is a treasure to be found in every challenge, every one of them. As you know, I've passed very difficult challenges, and including health-wise, and even in those, even when I was on that hospital bed and I didn't know if my liver would make it in the next few days, we were not sure. Even in that whole traumatic experience, there was a treasure. And so if your teen asks you to go live with the other parent, I would invite you to start looking for the treasure in the situation. And I'm going to give you a few pointers to help you do that. First, examine, do you have a relationship with your child, your teen, that is a little bit too fusional, where they don't have the space to really build their own identity and independence, because that's not healthy for them if that's the case. And that may come from fear, because let's say you're afraid to be alone, or you're afraid of, let's put it in another way. By you being so close to your teen all the time, doing everything together, what do you avoid doing, or who do you avoid becoming? What are you not doing because you're constantly with your teen? Who are you not becoming because of that? Because to become someone else, to grow, there is usually a period where we are uncomfortable because we are not used to being that new person. Maybe it is trying new things. Maybe it is even dating, because you have so much time that you're spending with your teen that it gives you the perfect excuse to not date, maybe to not build yourself a social life. Maybe there is something you've been wanting to study or try, and you tell yourself you don't have time because you have that teen with you. And I'm going to tell you it's just an excuse because, as you know, I'm alone and I raised 3 kids. I'm still raising some. And I have the full-time job, I have the business, I have the podcast, and I still find time to spend with my teens. It's just about making it quality time over quantity. Sometimes it's better to be an hour and fully with them with no phone, nothing else, no distraction, than being 3 hours with them being on their phone or you on the phone or even watching something together. Sometimes it's nice, but sometimes it's better to just not do anything where your attention is pulled away from each other, if that makes sense. So ask yourself the question, what is the payoff of having a teenager with you all the time and maybe not have too much time to do other things? What are you giving yourself excuses not to do? So that's the first thing I wanted to bring today to your mind and awareness, asking yourself this question. Now, the other thing I wanted to tell you is, like I said earlier, depending on the story you tell yourself about what is happening, you will experience your emotions. What happens is something happens, we run it by our subconscious models and beliefs and stories. Before the story, we run it through the filter of our beliefs, our unconscious belief and unconscious models of the world. And from there, we get to a conclusion and we create a story about what's happening. We create a meaning. What does it mean? So, and it's not even conscious, and it happens in seconds, maybe even faster than seconds. So let me give you an example. I broke my foot several years ago, and I had to have surgery. It was so bad. I was incapable of walking for at least a month or a month and a half. I don't remember exactly. So, because I have somewhere a belief that we can adapt to anything, I've changed countries so many times, so I developed my ability to adapt. And because I always focus on, I personally believe that there is a reason for everything. But even if you don't believe that, if you bring your focus on there is a gift behind every situation, if that's the story you tell yourself about what's happening, your brain, first of all, you're going to vibrate at the level of hope to find the gift, of the level of gratitude for the gift, at the level of curiosity to really discover what the gift is. So guess what you're going to be aligned with, as always, on the energy elevator. If that's the first time you listen to me, you may not know what I'm talking about. I always describe energy as an elevator, and based on where you vibrate, which comes from the story you tell yourself and the way you feel, you are going to stop either at the floor of sadness, desperation, powerlessness, maybe frustration in that case, or at the floor of curiosity and excitement to find the gift. And I know sometimes it's not that black and white, and we can go from one place to another during only one day in 24 hours. But if you put intention in there, you're going to go and vibrate at that level. If your intention is to really be curious about what is the gift behind the situation, chances are you're going to vibrate there. You're going to vibrate at that level. And on a brain level, our brain is like a target machine. We received, I believe, I've read a few days ago, I was reading about that, 2 million bits of information per second, and our brain only records 134,000. That's what I was reading based on a study, because I'm going back to study, and I'm studying NLP right now. So I was reading all this information. So our brain cannot process all the information, all the data that is out there. So it's going to be selective based on what is relevant to us. And you know, if you heard me talk about it, or maybe someone else, it's something that's very known amongst coaches and self-empowerment teachers. The reticular activating system in our brain is acting like a filter to let go of the information that is not relevant to us and make us pay attention to what is. It's matchmaking. It's picking the information that is relevant, matching it to our beliefs and our models of the world, and it's going to make us notice what is relevant for us. So if your belief and the story you're telling yourself is there is a gift in every situation, your brain is going to show you what the gift could be. I hope you got it. It was quite a long explanation for that, but basically that's the short version. You focus on, I'm going to stay curious because there is a gift in every situation, and your brain is going to say, okay, got it, I'm going to show you the gifts, because sometimes there are several. So the first question I would ask myself is, what is the gift in this situation? And when I was talking about me breaking my foot, which meant I couldn't walk, I couldn't go places that I'm used to go, I couldn't do as many things, I asked myself, what is the gift? What good could come out of that? Who could I become because of that? Well, I started meditating more. I caught up on my reading. I did something that I really don't like doing, and I don't know if you're like me, but I don't like doing paperwork. I really always have to push myself. But when you're at home and you can't go anywhere, you don't have any excuse. So you have to do that. So I caught up on that too. So what is yours? What good could come from that situation that your teen is telling you, I'm going to live with my father? And if you're a man, with my mother, but I have more women in the audience. What good? And if you don't know, you can even journal about it. If I knew what the good was, I would say, and you start writing, and you write for at least 5 minutes with no interruption. Or one good thing that comes up from them going there is, and you let your brain give you answers. And it may be that it's going to be the same answer over and over and over, but that's okay. That's okay. The next thing is, how can you tell yourself the story of what's going on? So let me give you an example. If you tell yourself the story of, I've done everything right, I was there all the time, I sacrificed my time and so many things for them, and now look what they're doing. They're going to live with the other parent who didn't do anything or barely did anything, and that's unfair, and what am I going to do? I'm so sad, blah, 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 blah. Okay? And that may be our initial reaction, because sometimes we're shocked by things when they happen like suddenly, and that's okay. To react like that at the beginning is okay. You just have to go through the emotion that you're feeling, like sadness and maybe anger and maybe fear, but don't stay in it. Don't bathe in it. First of all, for your teen, it's not good, because then they're going to feel guilty and they won't feel free to be themselves, to make their own choices, and maybe to do something that they feel they need to do for themselves. So on that level only, it's not even fair. And as parents, there are things that we have to think of them before we think of ourselves. And this is one of them. Not to put the guilt on them to do something that is good for them, but that may be challenging for us and creates strong emotions in us, strong negative emotions. So if that's the story you're telling yourself, drop that story. And it's as simple as that. When you when you start going there, you fight with your thoughts, or you put a stop, you do an intervention on your thoughts. The same way that you would do an intervention on a kid that is going to put their fingers or their fork in an electric socket when they are 2 or 3. You intervene, you jump and you say, whoop, you remove, you make them safe. Make yourself safe at a third level. And instead, and go and find your own story, but I'm going to give you an example. Instead, you can tell yourself that you did a good job, because I made my teen emotionally healthy enough to make a decision like that, which is building their independence and their identity apart from me. And that's what they're supposed to do. And that's healthy. And on that matter, I did an excellent job. So all the hours that I spent with them, all that I gave and everything I sacrificed was not for nothing. It made them strong. It made them wise. It made them able to connect with their needs and be wise enough to know what they need and feel safe enough to voice it to me and to ask if they could do it or tell me they would do it. I want to do that and I'm going to do that. So kudos to you. Because if you didn't do a good job, maybe your teen wouldn't be as clear as they are knowing what they need. And maybe if you were not loving enough, they wouldn't feel safe enough to tell you that. So you did a good job. I did a good job. I'm raising an independent teen who's going to be a well-functioning member of society, who's going to be able to be independent enough and wise enough to make the decisions for their well-being. So that's one version of the story. The other version is the same way that I am guided and helped and assisted by the universe, God, the field of infinite wisdom and infinite love, they are too. And therefore they know what they have to do. And they're going to be guided there too. Because even though they won't be living with me, they have their own guidance. And I trust that. And it's going to be a good opportunity for them to access that guidance away from me when they're going to need it. And there are many other stories that you can tell yourself. But find a version where you are empowered and where you give yourself credit for the good job you did as a parent. Because, as I'm saying, it shows that they are independent and they are well-functioning. I have mothers. I know mothers who have kids who are not independent and they are not well-functioning and they don't want to go alone anywhere. And some of them, the kids is even past 20. And that's a huge burden and that's a huge worry. Because what is going to be when they're not going to be there anymore and the kid won't know how to function? So that's reassuring. I was having a conversation with my son yesterday in the car, making him promise that if something would happen to me, because I have some condition with my heart, and which by the way I'm working on healing the same way that I healed my hepatitis B, where they told me that I would be on medication for the rest of my life, and now I'm off medication. I'm healing, but it could be also I'm at a higher risk. So I made him promise that if at any time I would not be here physically, he would take care of himself and he would do what's good for him. And they would be united, my 3 kids. They have a very, very strong bond. But I like to remind them. And maybe some people would say that it's morbid, but in a way, for me, it's a message to them that everything would be okay with me or without me. Because they know that I have this condition and I don't want it to be a stress on them. So knowing that they function appropriate to their age and that they can make some of their decisions by themselves, a lot of them, and that they're building that decision skill is very reassuring to me as a mother. Start thinking about that and start seeing the situation under another lens. A lens where it's not going to ruin your day, where you will also give yourself permission, and that's something you may have to repeat to yourself, because we're not used to give ourselves permissions as mothers. That's something we have to learn because we haven't been taught that too much. To give yourself permission to live and to be happy, even if your teen is not living with you in the house. It doesn't mean you're a bad mother at all. It means you don't put guilt on them because they see you happy, so they feel okay. It's huge for them. I know that when my ex-husband, he's usually was, because they don't see him too much anymore, they don't want to go, putting a lot of guilt on them, making them feel when they had a good time away from him, making them feel guilty. So when I remember my son having to go there because he felt guilty and he wanted his father to feel better, asking me, are you going to be okay if I go? Are you going to be okay if you're alone? And of course I told him I'm going to be okay. Of course, don't worry for me. Show them that you have a life apart from them. It makes them feel safer. It makes them feel lighter. That way they don't have this responsibility and this burden on them. Because us being single moms is sometimes heavy on them. They worry for us, even if they don't tell us. So I hope that what I told you today helps, because I have several moms in that situation. And if you need clarification on something or help figuring out something, you can come to the Facebook group. It's called Single and Doing It All. You can find it from my website, Single Moms Doing It All, or you can find it from my Facebook professional page, which is Your French Life Coach. Send me a message there or put a comment and I'll point you to the Facebook group. We do stuff in there. And that's the place where you can be privately asking stuff, asking questions, making comments, where people outside of the group won't see it. So go and enjoy your life, whether they live with you or they don't live with you. You deserve it. I'm sending you a lot of love, and I'll see you next time with another topic. Raising teens alone can be brutal. Join our community to get the tools at Facebook
groups/single and doing it all.